Call you right back.
All right. Hey everybody, we should be getting started here shortly. Let's see. This one's kind of short.
Hey Jonathan, how do I sound just real quick?
Oh, I forgot he had a wireless headset. Yeah, you sound good so far.
All right, cool.
How's it sound on your end?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, everything was all screwed up last week. I upgraded my machine to Windows 10, and they revved my recording software and one other piece of software, and one of them just completely borked on my audio pass, and it took me like an hour and a half to get it all straightened out.
Yikes. I have to tell you, I miss your hard rock intros and outros, man. That was a highlight for me.
It was for me too. Maybe someday we'll get Azure live streaming or something instead of YouTube where we're not going to get killed. We'll see.
How was the pre-con today?
I didn't go because I'm here.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I think it was just a dinner tonight.
Oh, I thought there was a pre-con session today.
I don't.
The day. That was just a dinner.
If there was, I had no idea.
Yeah, okay.
It's not impossible.
No, my old boss is in Alpharetta, so I sent them a mail saying, "Hey, you should go."
Oh, okay.
If you got Friday open, so.
Yeah, it's not at the Microsoft office this time, which I haven't been to this place at Georgia Tech before, but the pictures look really nice. It looks like a really nice venue, but I'm looking forward to speaking there. And I have Mark Manassi for my opening act, so that's not bad.
A hard act to follow. Yeah.
And then I have the scripting guy right behind me, so no pressure.
Nice. Yeah. Last year I was at the Silicon Valley Code Camp and I was slotted at the same time as Douglas Crockford. So I was like, okay, nobody's coming to my talk. Right.
I'm going to talk to crickets.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, Hal thought that when he had a session, like a Birds of a Feather session at Tech Ed, and he was opposite Jeffrey Snover. And Jeffrey Snover, his room filled up completely, and so did Hal's. So
he got all the overflow. No,
yeah,
it works. Perfect.
Hello.
Hey, man.
Yeah,
Mr. Rotenberg, how are you, sir?
Eric.
I'm much happier this week because the audio's working.
Yes, last week was back to our old times.
It was a travesty we have not seen in many a year.
Yeah, but it was one of those forced errors.
Yeah.
I'll just upgrade everything.
All at once, right now. What could go wrong?
Exactly.
I'll put it in the change request later.
Yes, indeed.
Your video's trying to start.
Is it? Let me checky my thingy. Here, hold on. Too many windows open. Okay. There it is.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, I see you.
Wait.
Whoa.
Maybe.
That's cool.
That's
I see two of you. It's
That
Hal's
is
evil
weird.
twin.
All right. Let me I'm gonna play with that because that's weird.
Okay, now it's right.
All I did was open preferences, and it reset it.
That's cute.
Okay then. We move those windows around. And let's see, should probably.
You're also more landscape than usual.
Thanks. That is weird though. I don't know why that would be.
No, it's good.
Is it?
Yeah, it's good.
I didn't do anything. I don't understand.
Your Skype updated.
Yes.
We're improving your experience.
Is that where Eric will sit?
He's back. You should see him as soon as something refreshes.
Momentarily.
I'm here.
He heard you the whole time, though. He's on a wireless headset.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember
Don't
we talked about
me,
the. I'm not. It's cool. Yes, is that the now venerable Plantronics wireless headset?
It is. As soon as Steven mentioned it, I jumped on that.
I did the same thing, man. I'm not
Very
wearing
nice.
it now. I'm not styling it anymore since I had a cash infusion to get some podcasting gear. So.
Oh, nice.
These are my Audio Technica studio monitor dailies. They're pretty sweet. But they have
Does that mean
cords.
there might be a Splunk thing reboot?
Yeah, I bring it up
had,
often with my buddy Wild. I wonder what would happen if I bugged him right now about it. Okay. While I'm podcasting, I'm thinking about podcasting.
People are asking. People are inquiring.
Says that he's idle. I could get him on Facebook though, surely. See, it's funny. It's like we have all these ways to connect with people. He appears to be on.
Slack seems to be particularly effective for me at the moment.
I like it a lot. I do.
I'm looking for my invite, but Mac Mail, you fail me every time. I just got a Mac at work, and I'm actually enjoying the Outlook for Mac better than I am Mac Mail. I don't know why people tout Mac Mail so much. It's terrible.
Now, are you running the 2016 version?
Yeah, probably. Or no,
Probably.
You mean for Outlook?
Yeah.
At work? At work?
So you're running Office 2000. What was it
2011, yeah.
2007? 11. Okay.
11, yeah.
Yeah, that's the most awful. That's the most awful experiment. You like that better than Mac Mail?
Then Mac Mail? Oh yeah, Mac Mail can bleep, 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 bleep.
I've never enjoyed a piece of Apple software personally.
I actually bought my Macs for the Adobe Creative Suite and Terminal. That's really it. Everything else is just
Terminal is sharp. I do have to agree with you there.
And then Glenn turned me on to iTerm. I love that guy.
I've never tried iTerm.
Yeah, so it's just, better terminals. But to be honest with you, my next machine's probably I'm just going to get a nice new machine and put Linux on it and just...
No, Linux on the desktop, man, that never really happened.
Yeah, I think as long as you don't need wireless, you're good at this point.
Yeah. I've had really good luck with Ubuntu Mate. It is pretty good. So it's a nice, it's kind of built for older machines.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Hey, hold up. I have to mute for a moment. I'll be right back.
I think it's the old GNOME 2X. I'll have to look into it, but it's pretty slick. I like it. I do not like Unity. I like Ubuntu. I like Debian. I don't like Unity. So... I've been struggling to find a good Linux desktop for years. So,
why? I mean, what do you lack in Windows or Mac OS?
Mac.
I never understood that personally.
For Mac, it's the obnoxious pinging me to log into iCloud. I just don't like Apple as a company. I don't trust them. I like the OS. It's nice. I've been using Apple since the mid 90s, but I love iOS. OS X, it's another thing. In Windows, I try to get back into Windows. I use Windows every day at work, but it's Windows 7. And I have my wife switched over to Apple. And it's just easy not to have to worry so much about virus software and stuff like that. I think that's really the biggest thing. I run Windows and VMs left, right, and center, but just as a machine. Yeah. With VMs, it doesn't really matter anymore. And the nice thing is if I have a problem with the machine, I can just torch it and start over. So,
yes, yeah, that is my habit these days. I just installed Windows 10 in a VM, and I was like, what about my Windows 8.1 workstation VM, that I use for anything Windows, because I'm running Mac OS as well. I was like, screw it. I don't have any. I mean, all the things that I need, all the data is all in cloud services. They get synced or
yeah, exactly.
So doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter to me either. Yeah.
So, are we ready to get started, Jonathan? Everything sounded good to me.
Yes, we are.
Alrighty then. Let me take a snapshot for the Facebook page. Everybody pose, and then in 30 seconds, then I'll actually be able to. 1, 2, 3, pose. Okay, smile. Or hold it. Okay. That was cheesy. Okay, let me make some show notes, and then we'll get started, because I forgot to make the show notes. Welcome, everyone.
We probably still have it from last week.
Probably, yes. Episode 307 of Brian Matthew. So let's make a copy of that one and call it 307.
So I think I made it into Slack. How do I know?
Let me invite you to this room
My
here.
Slackers?
What's your is it Organic IT?
Yes.
Found you.
I'm in the PowerShell one. Oh, live podcast.
But you're
okay.
Exactly.
Got it. I'm in. Hola.
Well, it's got scroll back. I mean, that's like killer feature number one.
Nice.
Like,
all right, so I'm gonna get crazy here. I'm gonna keep IRC and Slack side by side here.
That's what I do.
Some of us do it. Yeah, I do too, actually.
Okay.
Mostly because I can collect log files from my IRC client and parse them with PowerShell for the show notes.
I bet you could do it with Slack too.
I bet you could, but I don't know how.
Yeah, it's work.
Yeah.
Invoke web request.
That's what I'm thinking. Okay, let me hit the share button for Jonathan. For the show notes, alrighty. They are shared. What question would we be up to for Eric, you think?
Well,
think about that.
This would be the first official one I've been on.
What? No.
So you've never had the question?
That I've been the guest.
Ah.
I thought we had this very same conversation.
I crashed one of your podcasts when you were doing it at the Splunk office.
I can remember
the
that.
other one was the PowerShell.
Not true. No.
It was
Episode
the post PowerShell Summit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Episode 269. You were the.
I don't think I was. I was one of the
few.
Yes.
Eric, Dave Wyatt, Jeff Truman, Jason Hofferly, and Teresa.
But I don't think I was asked a question.
Oh, yes, you were.
Was I? Which one?
Your superhero was Diaper Man.
Yeah. So that was the same answer I gave on the original one. So I'll stick with that. Mighty Friends. Absolutely.
Then.
Though I've since
that
graduated from buying diapers, so that might change. So I'll leave it up to you guys. If you want to ask it again.
Well, we have a different question for you. It's okay.
Yeah, we have a different question.
I'm very excited. It's been 8 years of buying diapers. I'm very happy to be out of it.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, why does it say that my 2016 TP3 box is still provisioning? Started it that process like 10 minutes ago.
Because you didn't make it big enough, Hal.
Are you being serious? I made it a D1, which is what it suggested. I don't know what that is, though.
Okay, so if you're going into yours, I'm going into mine now.
Yeah.
It's all good into Azure and spin stuff up.
Yay.
Please. Everyone play along.
Oh, it's so much nicer now with that big, huge buffer. I went from $50 a month to $150. Very nice.
Whoa. Nice. I don't know. I never used mine.
I had
125.
I had the MSDN Professional, and that was only $50.
Gotcha.
So please don't forget you left that machine on.
Yeah. Okay, 1 core and 3.5 gigs of RAM. That's what this box is supposed to be. D1, yeah. 1 of 20 cores. I guess that means that the 20 is the max that I could change it to, I guess. Shows you how often I change things in what you call it, in Azure. I don't understand why it's still provisioned though. I've never seen that before.
Well, if we were going that big, we should have just cranked up a Minecraft server and just played Minecraft and talked.
Yeah. All right. Let's get started for realsies, though. Okay. People in the podcast, in the chat room, use a couple hash marks if you'd like to get our attention in order to pose questions to the guest, whom we will introduce momentarily. Tonight on the PowerScripting Podcast, we are pleased to have with us back for the 2.5 time, Eric Courville. Welcome back, Eric.
Hey, Hal. Glad to be back.
So, let's see. We had you back on episode 269. We were talking about this before we started recording, and you were one of several. This was after the PowerShell Summit. We just kind of did a wrap-up show. That was pretty cool.
Yes,
but I don't think... Were you a PowerShell MVP at the time?
I was not. I am a baby. July 11th of this year.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you going to the summit?
I have a kind of a temporary yes right now from my boss. So
cool.
They're going to book a flight for me. If they're flying me, I'm going.
Nice. Hope to see you there.
Yeah.
When is it, like November? I'm not.
It's the first week in November.
All right. Cool. Yep. So why don't you tell folks about you who have not heard you on previous shows just a little bit?
Sure. I've been an IT operations person supporting ERP solutions for about 16 years now. PeopleSoft Financials, Oracle, Great Plains, and SAP. And if I do JD Edwards, I think I get a booby prize or a console, maybe even a watch or something. So yeah, I've been doing it for quite a long time. Oracle databases, a whole slew of things.
So what does that have to do at all with PowerShell? I mean, well, you've got your hands in other things, many other things.
Many pies. Yeah. So managing financial systems, you have a flagship ERP, whether it's SAP or PeopleSoft or Oracle Financials, but invariably you'll end up with dozens and dozens of small little supporting apps that the functionality that the ERP doesn't support. So whether it's a Windows-based app, a Java-based app, you got all these dozens of small little bolt-on apps and supporting apps. So whether it's a tax department. And what you do with finance teams is you end up taking over their little SQL servers that they have hiding under their desks in all these remote locations. So that's kind of what I do. I shepherd along their systems, and to support those apps, a lot of them are client-server based, and that's really how I got into Windows scripting. We're a heavy Unix shop, so I have a long history of Corn shell scripting, Python, Perl, Bash. And when we took over our Citrix environment to support PeopleSoft, I was thrown into the VB scripting mix. And that was in about 2001.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And yeah, so very long time doing VB scripting. And when PowerShell came along, I skeptically said, okay, what is it, another J script or Windows scripting host? So I just sat by and watched it evolve. And then I'd say it was about, 2012? You guys, well, I think it was right about the time Windows 8 was coming out. I took another look at it, and it looked promising. So it was about the time I started listening to podcasts. So I went hunting around for a PowerShell podcast, and I found Alan's podcast and your podcast. And that first week that I listened live, you guys had Dave Kennedy on.
That was a good show.
And I was hooked.
He's podcasting now?
Yeah, I've heard a few of them.
I didn't know that. You ain't good?
Yeah.
Should check it out.
The audio quality could be better.
Yeah, and the content's a little driven more towards the serious hackers. So if you're not really doing it day to day, you probably...
So it looks like this is trustedsec.com/podcast.
Yes, it is.
Podcast for people listening along. We'll put the link in the show notes. Why not?
Yeah. My new favorite podcast is actually the Python podcast. Well, aside from this podcast, of course.
Of course, yeah.
That's my new one here. Let me see. Talk Python to me. There's two of them. Talk Python and podcast_init, something like that. Anyway, so I love podcasting. I stopped watching TV now. YouTube and podcasting. That's all I listen to and watch.
I'm not a video person. I mean, like YouTube, I don't watch too much on there. I'm probably the only person in the house that doesn't. But yeah, I do listen to a lot of podcasts.
Jonathan, he doesn't even watch his own podcast on YouTube.
No, why would he? He was in it.
Exactly. So I wanted to have you on to talk about Server 2016. For people who have not been following along very closely, as we're recording this podcast on August the 20th, we just had a new drop that's, what is it called? Tech Preview 3, and that shipped, was it yesterday? Day before yesterday? Very recently, anyway.
Yeah.
And Eric, I hear you've been playing around with the new stuff, so I thought I would have you on to talk about it.
Yeah. Like everybody else, I've been poking around, primarily just using it in Azure. Just like every shiny new toy, I'd like to go kick the tires on it. But, being that I just started getting 2012 at work, I don't think I'll be using it in my day job for a very long time. But it's good to go in and play and learn the new stuff. So, yeah.
Yes, it if you are in this line of business, it's kind of, you have to keep yourself current and look towards the future and make yourself learn. So that's how it works.
Exactly. Yeah. But, really the big thing that I think everybody's starting to talk about now that's coming out in the new release is going to be containers. So I've had a lot of exposure to the Docker side, and it's just going to be interesting to see how, containers evolve on the Windows side.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm dropping a bunch of links in the show notes with kind of the what's new roundup for Server 2016, and containers are definitely the thing that's been on my mind a lot. Same here with regards to the Docker side. So people who if you're listening and you missed it, episode, was it 305, Jonathan? I think Ben Armstrong. Definitely go check that one out.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. And he came on to give us the rundown on what Microsoft was working on, and he gave us some previews of what was going to be released. And that's what's happened this week. So now we've got code that we can fire up servers and play with it. I haven't had a chance to do so yet, but it was funny. I was chatting with a couple of people at work and basically sharing with them the existing container support, Docker support in Windows. And while we were chatting about it, one of the guys, was like, okay, I've got it up, and okay, I've got Splunk installed in it. Okay, try to do this. So it was like 10 minutes passed. I was like, okay, it looks like it sort of works. But there's a lot
I think it was
a lot of change.
Episode 304. I'm looking at my podcast right now.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's good that a lot of people are getting into it now. And, ever since Docker was released, I've been aware of it and, watching it. And, I've been very hesitant to dive right into Docker. There's so many rough edges around it that are starting to gel, now that they're standardizing on a lot of different things. It's coming together. But my big concern mostly on containers right now is the management of them, right? A lot of people are diving in right now and just getting their apps packaged up into a container. There's lots of projects like Mesos and Mesosphere and stuff like that. Once those start evolving, where the IT pro can actually start managing, 10,000 nodes of an application and understand how those relate to each other and interact with each other. That's when. So let's
back up a little bit. We did talk a lot with Ben about containers and what he saw happening on the Windows side. But you and I, Eric, we've done some of this on the Linux side, and you introduced a couple of concepts that I think we should probably touch on before we think about how that might work within Windows. So Mesos. Kubernetes, these are things that are about the orchestration of containers. Do you want to talk a little bit about
Sure.
what that means?
Right. So, just at a very high level, you're building these containers that are hosting your application stack, and the isolated nature of them lend them to be more separated out and kind of hidden away to where unlike, so let me just step back. If I was going to have a web server farm running IIS, logically I would know I have an IP address to point to this host, right? And I'm going to front it with a load balancer, what have you. You can understand that, whether you're going to have like a NetScaler device load balancing those systems. But you're abstracting that away now into the container realm here, where you're not going to actually be fronting those containers with a physical device load balancer. And so kind of all the physical architecture that you would have to build out a standard physical legacy type environment, that's all got to be abstracted away in the software layer now. So that plumbing has to be there and mature enough.
Software.
Yes, exactly. So whether it's software-defined networking, software-defined storage, all that stuff. I think that's a little further behind right now than containers themselves are. Mm-hmm. So that's coming up, and we're expecting companies like Twitter and Google and Facebook to be driving that because, they're doing it at the scale that matters at, right? So if I'm a little small mom and pop, small to medium sized business, I'm not fronting my IIS web app. I'm not really interested in containers right now, right? I have an investment in legacy systems. They're working. Why am I even going to bother adopting something like that?
Or my stuff's running in the cloud and I don't care how it works as long as it works.
Sure. AWS or Amazon or Azure's already taking care of that for me, right?
Yeah.
So, but what is it that you're moving around? What is it that you're deploying if you're using cloud services? Typically, not all the time, but typically you are you're still provisioning virtual machines. There's definitely concepts, and I'd be kind of curious if either of you guys would either experience or your opinions on how often companies are using some of those other services by Azure, by AWS, that are kind of more abstracted. Like you have websites in Azure. You have what are they called in AWS? I forget. But there's dozens and dozens of services that are not. Yeah, Elastic Beanstalk's a good one. Dozens and dozens of services that are not VMs.
Exactly. Yeah, and I have more experience on Heroku than anything else. But that's the idea. That's PaaS. And in fact, we're doing that at my company. We're in the process of implementing Cloud Foundry. So that's internal hosted PaaS. So it's the idea of me packaging up my Java application, PHP app, Python app, and deploying it much like an Azure website. handing them the bits and saying, here, I'm going to go into a UI and control the scale up, scale down, the load balancing, taking care of all that stuff through that PaaS infrastructure. So, I see some more startups, being so close to San Francisco, I see, south of market type companies, startups doing that type of stuff where, they're ramping up large scale systems and scaling horizontally to meet their demands and being able to scale down, right? Instead of having to buy into or provision tons of hardware in a data center. But like a large Fortune 500 company, I see their use cases more as big data type stuff, and how, you and I have a lot of interactions on the Splunk side. So for me, I have a very large Splunk implementation where I'm not really doing that. But if I'm, taking a large data sets, I would be using that in AWS or Azure. And, cranking out large, if I'm using Hadoop, I'm doing large calculations on that data. If, I'm hand rolling something, I might use a container for that, or if I'm deploying microservices for something, I see that as a good use case for containers. But, especially in the enterprise, I don't see a lot of huge adoption. Right now, I think it's more the new hotness and everybody just wants to play with it. So,
I mean, you're right. It is the new hotness. People are playing with containers. The question that's kind of outstanding, perhaps yet to be proven, is will these things take off in production in the enterprise, or will they kind of remain the web scale only sort of thing?
I think they will. A lot of people know.
That was a multiple choice question. Which one?
Yeah. I think that enterprises will adopt it due to the fact that it's more secure. I think security is the hugest thing. I see this at my company. We go through a lot of legacy apps every time a new vulnerability pops open. So, we spend a lot of time and effort going through large stacks of applications and fixing vulnerabilities, whether it's on the Windows side, the Linux side, Oracle databases, SQL Server, what have you.
So I'm going to challenge you to explain what you just said. Why would you achieve better security through the use of containers?
Well, even
I'm not disagreeing, mind you, but
no. Sure. Whether it's on the Linux. Whether it's on let's take Linux, for example. When you create a Docker container, you're starting with the smallest runnable version of that operating system. Whereas, if I took a Red Hat 6 OS and just spun up the CD and did a fresh new install, the exposed vulnerable footprint of the attack surface is going to be much larger, right? So you're going to have SSH running on that. You're going to have NTP running. You're going to have SNMP. You're going to have all these services running that might not be pertinent to running your application. And you're going to have to account for those, monthly in patching. And then the same on the Windows side, which is, why everybody's so excited about Nano, right? You're going to be starting with the least bit of bits that's required to run your app stack. And just by having that right there, you're reducing, the attack surface, just like Jeffrey says in his talks. Mm-hmm. The more you can reduce the attack surface of your system, the better off you're going to be, the safer you're going to be,
Well, I think we will eventually, I don't know how long it's going to take for this to happen, but I think we will definitely get to the point that the minority of servers are your full GUI, servers that people are still deploying everywhere today.
Certainly as a percentage of the total servers with all the servers that are running Azure and AWS and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that goes to the definition of the concept of like an OS being cloud ready or made for the cloud. I mean, Why do you need a GUI in those cases?
I know that, you know that, but my God, I spend so much time in my day convincing other people that. There's a huge culture
that we still have.
there's a huge culture of legacy folks who've been in this business a long time that will not give up their GUIs. They just love them. They're like security blankets. It's the best answer I have for you.
Yeah. I mean, change is hard. I mean, I get that. So I'm, not going to lie. But, Microsoft's been building on, a base of features for, PowerShell version 5 just shipped with the Windows 10 desktop, of course. And, we're going to see more and more goodness as Server 2016, heads toward launch as far as, PowerShell features in there. So there's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of, features that we've been able to use for many years now. So you don't have many excuses.
No, you don't. But you know what? As long and doing a little research for the show, I was looking around on a few sites, and one of the most prevalent things I saw was I wish I could find it. It's even on the server side, the workspaces. I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, why are we touting that on the server? Right. I don't want workspaces on the server, right? You know what I mean? The desktop, sure, fine, but again, so
what is? I'm not sure what this is. What workspaces are you talking about?
Oh my gosh!
Are you talking about the virtual desktops where you can switch?
No,
they're not doing that on
guy. I think they are, John. I think they are. Where is
they're going to do that on the servers?
Yes, it is on the server. I'll go into that server right now. Yeah. I'm looking here. Task view. I'm sorry. It's task view.
Can you add a desktop? is it plus there?
No. Yeah. So, you just add task view and you go in and open up another app. And gosh, it's just, again, why? Don't do it. Take stuff away. Don't keep adding stuff, please.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So now you can pop between them. So if you put an app in focus, I guess, and do task view, you can run multiple. So it's like
if you do task view and you click the new desktop, you'll get a second desktop like you have in Linux or something, and then you hit like Control Windows key left and right arrow to flip back and forth between them, and you can move stuff in between desktops.
Yeah, so I'm on here right now. So
analogous to the feature in macOS called Expose, maybe it's called.
Yeah, so you control left arrow, right arrow, and it gives you a fresh desktop. Actually, GNOME and KDE have had that for about almost 20 years.
Wow, it does have the new Desktop Plus.
Yeah.
In that screenshot.
Okay, so I'm on the technical preview right now in Azure. So I spun it up from the gallery, and just hitting the start menu, I see Xbox Game UI, Xbox Identity Provider, Wireless Display Media Viewer. Yeah. Okay, why? No.
Well, point made in the chat room. I assume the GUI bits are the same between client and server.
That's why you don't install them.
Right.
Yeah.
So. But if it was up to me, you would, it would look like server core. So that's why people don't let me design stuff.
It's still there. Nano is going to be kind of where I think we're going to see the focus longer term.
Yeah, I think if they took the approach where they just built a really kick-butt RSAT type UI or the ability to do something like that where it just easily remoted to the machine and just, pull the plug, say, hey, you just don't get GUI anything on the server. Sorry. But that's a Linux Unix person talking, so, my idea of a GUI was X window display, setting my display and getting an ugly Java window, so...
Okay, so that's why. Okay, because we were talking about Linux on the desktop before we started recording, and I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
I've
Linux
done
on my desktop or my laptop, that's one thing, but Linux on a server, right? There's no desktop unless you use X Windows, right? So because I've supported Oracle for so long, I've had to install Oracle software on a Solaris machine with a UI, right? Does that make sense? No. But if you want to run the universal installer for Oracle, you have to run X Windows, and you get this nasty, horrid, wretched Java UI to do your installations on. So,
yeah.
And Jonathan, in your days, you probably installed the Oracle client on a Windows machine, right?
I have.
It makes that look beautiful, right? So,
really?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty bad.
Yeah. What did they say? Run everywhere, look bad everywhere. So
nice.
But
let's get slightly back to Server 2016 and talk about things that we may have played with as far as new features. Have you had a chance to do much with it, hands-on?
I fired up the Hyper-V, and all in all, to the layman, it looks pretty much the same except for the new glossy UI features. But it seems like if you're into using the the file server bits storage services, they've done quite a bit with that. And then something interesting on the Hyper-V side, you can actually run Hyper-V inside of a Hyper-V now, apparently.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that seems pretty cool. So if you're building out lab environments and stuff, that seems pretty handy. And instead of remoting over TCP/IP, it looks like you can remote directly in through some channel. I'm not quite sure how that works directly, but you can remote.
What do you mean now? Are we talking about
in Hyper-V? Yeah. So when you're in Hyper-V, oh gosh, I wish I could find that.
Nice callback there, Jonathan.
Yeah. What do you got there? Yo, dog. Nice.
That was from Stephen Owen. He dropped that at an amazing time during a podcast.
Yeah, it was that during Ben's talk? I think,
yeah, it was.
Yeah,
I'll have to look for that piece right now. I'll come back to that if I can find that. But yeah, so it just seems like they're sharpening up a lot of what they started in Server 2012, which is good. I think Server 2012 was the absolute best Windows server I've ever touched in my life. And that's me from all the way back in NT4. So, yep.
So Alex just asked in the chat room, I just want to answer this one real quick. Any updates to storage spaces? Yes, there are. And we tried to have the PM for that feature the show last week, but that we had audio problems. So next show we're going to be digging deep into storage spaces. So stay tuned on that one.
Yeah.
There was a question earlier that I want to another one. Let's see. Running containers on the client. I don't know one way or the other on this, but I'm thinking that we're probably not going to be able to do that without virtualization. But I could be wrong.
Not yet. Well, obviously you're going to have Hyper-V. So if you're doing this on a Windows 10 machine, you're going to have the Hyper-V bits on your Windows 10 machine. But we'll see here soon when they can port Docker over to Hyper-V. Then you should be able to, right? That's the idea.
Yeah, I would think so.
But today it's easy enough to whether you want to pay for virtualized software or not. I mean, you can still install Oracle VirtualBox and run a Linux machine. Windows folks, it's okay to use Linux every once in a while. It won't bite you.
It won't bite you. Yeah, I actually like VirtualBox. It works well and it's free. Enough.
Yeah, and it's a good way to get into other things such as Vagrant. Vagrant's another great product and great tool that people should be up to speed on and getting their fingers wet on that. So, and that helps for me, supporting application developers of all different kinds. Again, that is the biggest problem for developers, is getting a development system going and getting up to speed quickly with a development system. So I've been trying to leverage that a lot in my days at work. So,
have you done anything with PowerShell and Vagrant?
No.
Those are the points. I haven't done much with it either. I want to say that we had, maybe we didn't have anybody on the show to talk about Vagrant, but it came up.
So yeah, Steve Morawski was talking about Vagrant.
Yeah, and I think episode 243 with Rob Reynolds, I think we talked about it there as well.
Yeah, so you can crank up a Vagrant Windows machine, right? And again, it's which way you want to slice and dice it. For IT pros, we're probably not looking at the same kind of use cases. I think the box starter and Chocolatey probably suit us better than Vagrant.
Mo better.
Yeah, a lot better. Excuse me. So, Vagrant, and this is the problem we're all running into now, and that's why I've been kind of hesitant on the Docker stuff, is so many tools and products are coming out. We're just getting flooded with things to learn. And, how do you find the cycles in the day to learn all this stuff?
Do it when you're supposed to be doing work. That's what I suggest.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Pluralsight on an iOS device has made my bathroom time so productive. I'll leave it at that. You got to find. You're right. You got to find the time to learn.
I've downloaded hours of that stuff and watched them on airplanes before.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I mean, even for me, I actually just started a new role at work. We're diving headlong into the whole DevOps movement. So across our whole enterprise, we're adopting Jira, Stash, Jenkins for continuous integration deployment. I mentioned Cloud Foundry, so we're trying to port whatever we can to those types of platforms, and that's running on OpenStack. So, we're just swimming right now in things to learn. And how do you apply the legacy environment that you've been working in into these new tools? And that kind of, correlates as well to Nano in the container world. You're trying to figure out how to apply what you've learned and what you've known to the new technologies coming out. So it's easier for some folks than it is others, because you're living in a legacy world where you can't do all the shiny new things. Not everybody works at a cool place like HAL, where, south of Market, you can do whatever you want, right? I'm just kidding. But and that's a great thing about the cloud being available to us, is we have these playgrounds now where we can test out things and test out new ideas.
Let me see. I had pasted into the chat room. Let me find it. List of a couple of new things coming. I want to make sure that we cover a few of those. Let's see. Nano server. We talked a lot about that in a couple of previous podcasts.
Something weird happened to your audio, Hal.
Really? Sorry. All right, am I okay now?
Yeah, that sounds better.
Okay.
It sounded like it still sounds a little like you're talking into a tin can.
That's interesting. I don't know what to do about it, but
okay, now it's gone. Okay, cool.
Sorry about that.
Nice work. I like the way you fixed that.
PowerShell version 5, of course.
Yes.
You guys, have you played with classes or anything else coming in version 5?
I have been playing with classes a lot in preparation for a talk I'm doing at Techstravaganza tomorrow.
Oh, awesome.
So I'm going to talk about classes, and I'm going to talk about convert from string, which is awesome. Holy cow, that is awesome.
Convert from string or convert string? That's what I was just going to mention that.
Convert from string.
Okay. So there's two, right?
There's convert from string. There's convert from string data. And I think there's a couple more, actually. Yes, but convert from string is the one where you can do example-based parsing. So you can take a piece of, like if you're parsing a log file, you can take a piece of that log file and say, this piece of the log file, this is a file name, and this is, an IP address, and this is something else, and this is something else, and I want them labeled like this. You put that in a here string, and then you feed that to the commandlet, and it will parse through and used what, given what you've given it, it will figure out where it needs to pull the data from and create objects for you without you having to, do crazy stuff with regular expressions or some other technique.
Neat.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I'm going to show tomorrow.
Huge. Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. I was reading through Ed's article the other day, and that's just incredible. Teaching your commandlet that teaches, how to parse something that's just, anybody who's had to struggle with regex throughout their career will appreciate this, most definitely.
Classes or I'm at the phase with classes where I see the benefits for DSC, but am I going to use them? Like, am I going to replace the way, or am I going to change the way I create custom objects to use classes? Maybe eventually, but right now I don't necessarily see a lot of benefit other than the IntelliSense is awesome when you're using classes. It works really, really well, and it prevents you from shooting yourself in the foot in a lot of ways. And supposedly it's significantly faster to create new instances of a class than it is to create custom objects. So if you're creating, thousands of them, you could get a performance benefit.
Absolutely. So, it's a great primer. We all talk about becoming developers, and we're right. If you're developing in PowerShell, you are starting to become a developer, whether you like it or not. And I find that being a gateway drug to be deeper into C#. That's been a great thing about using PowerShell. It's helped me understand the .NET framework so much more, and being able to even understand how to code in C#. So just be careful if you use it. You might become a developer.
Does it catchy? It's like a.
I got some developer on me. Oh no!
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think it actually works. Not great.
No, but as far as the Windows 10 stuff's concerned, obviously in the data center, Windows has lost a lot of traction to Linux, just to the cheap, the low cost of Linux and the ease to create small servers in volume. That's given them a huge head start. If you look at Azure or AWS, the numbers aren't even close. But I think they're taking the right step, by pressing forward with Nano. I think it's going to be hugely important for them to just keep chugging down that road, shrink the footprint of the server base, keep sharpening up the kernel, all the peripheral tools, and especially PowerShell. I mean, getting that going and getting that on the right track, it's just going to help the market share. Are you going to convert all the Linux zealots out there? No, of course not. But it's going to be easier for Microsoft to live.
Well, you don't need to. I mean, if you have a situation where, let's take containers in Docker, for example. If I have a particular application that is made to run inside IIS, for example, versus some application that runs in some Linux web server or instance. If the only difference, effectively when running workloads on if the only difference is the contents of the Docker file, I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. If I type, for people who are familiar with Docker, this will make a little more sense. But you type it has a configuration style or a configuration file where you can say from and then the name of the image, the base image that container starts with. So let's say, for example, from Apache, from Nginx, that would spin up a web server. If you say from IIS and you go ahead and deploy that, start that container, then you get Windows, a container, and then you get IIS, and it's just up, and you as a part of the configuration that creates that container, it points to where your web root is, and it just goes. So you don't even have to convert anyone to, some Windows way of thinking. And then for the people who know PowerShell like us, you can manipulate that container, that server, that application with PowerShell also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another big, huge thing that I think is going to be really huge is the ASP.NET VNext stuff. Once you start getting penetration on C# into the Linux platform, you're going to start enabling synergies between the code that they write and deploy on Linux and tie it back to services in Windows. I think that might help gain a lot more traction and adoption. There's a lot of bad history that a lot of SAs and developers have resentment towards Microsoft. It's going to take a lot of work for them to get over the hump on that, but there's enough young people today who didn't live through that pain in the past, and I think the ASP, the cross-plat nature of ASP.NET now is going to help that. I could be totally out to lunch on that, but it's just a feeling I have.
I mean, it is a bit of a different. I've said this before. It's a different Microsoft now with Satya Nadella and kind of the Microsoft's embracing of open source and all of their biggest software packages are cross-platform. Mobile and desktop. So, I mean, it's a really this is a different time for the Microsoft ecosystem.
I listened to a Linux podcast, and they were at a couple trade shows where Microsoft was there talking to them, and they're usually trashing them left, right, and center. And, they're actually impressed with Microsoft's moving forward with them, with open source. And, their tune's starting to change. So, they're actually were at LinuxCon this week. So.
Crazy times.
It is. Cats and dogs side by side, holding hands, singing together.
All right, I'm upset.
Penguins
I was
and
never
ninja
able
cats.
to log into my server machine this whole time.
Oh.
I've been messing with it. The Mac RDP client sucks, and it just doesn't want to connect. I brought my Windows 10 VM. I don't know, I can't do the password or something. I don't know what to do.
It must be your region. What region are you in? South?
East. I don't think
Okay.
there is a south.
I don't know. I do the
East
West.
US
I roll
says.
with the West.
Really?
Yeah. Just VPN into Splunk and connect on over to the West region. Everything's cool here.
All right.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm using other resources with my VM. I'm crushing yours.
I guess so. I don't know. So let's start to close this out here. Any kind of calls to action or resources that you want to leave people with?
Calls to action, user groups, support your local user group. We're just closing in on our second year, and I remember Jonathan mentioning the user group the first time, NorCal Posh, and said, "Isn't Northern California pretty big?" And 2 years later, Jonathan, yes, it is very big. It's been an effort to get it going, and it's interesting. It works. There's a lot of good people who come, but if anybody's listening and you have a user group close by, please support them. Please attend, and if you RSVP, please go and don't just not show up.
Right.
And then support, your local tech sessions. Like you guys have Atlanta Tech Extravaganza tomorrow. I've told quite a few people in the Atlanta area to go to that. I'll be at Silicon Valley Code Camp next month in Mountain View, California. A lot of good people are going to be at that. Just support your local stuff wherever you can, however you can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good call. Yeah, so I was trying to look up some sort of size basis for Northern California. I haven't yet come up with a number.
Yeah,
So what
it's
compared to
really,
Georgia?
it's probably
Trees.
the top left corner of your state.
Yeah, something like that.
It's pretty big. But, it's realistic. Gosh, I live 100 miles from San Francisco, and that's really where the home base is for it. The Microsoft office there, that's the ideal place to have our meetings and stuff. But we make it work. We have them here out in Folsom. We have them down in Campbell, just by San Jose, Ed Horley's company. A few folks down there, Daryl and Nick Hawkins. Some really good folks helping out, so it's much appreciated. Shout out. That's Daryl Harrington.
So Jonathan, do we have a final question for our guest, Eric Courville?
We do. Eric, we would like to know, what was your first computer?
Okay, my first computer, I thought about this. This is like 1987-ish. My dad was a carpenter, and he was redoing an office building, and he came home with a TI keyboard with a couple of cartridges that you plugged into. And I've searched and searched and searched to see if I could find out what the actual model was. Never could. So I just remember wiring this up to my 13-inch black and white TV, plug the cartridge in, and you can make a robot do like jumping jacks. So that that would have been my first. I had no idea what the hell I was doing on that, but
would this have been the TI 99-4A?
Something like that. I cannot confirm or deny that. Yeah, but
I'll put a link in the show notes. You click through
I'll
see if
look.
those pictures look like what you're talking about.
No, even more archaic than that.
Okay, let's look at the.
Yeah,
Come on, chat room, help me out here.
you gotta dig. I've searched and searched. I couldn't find it. But what I would say is that when I was very blessed. My school district growing up was way ahead at the time. Gosh, I must have been in the 6th grade. We had a computer lab full of Commodore 64s.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
And it was awesome. I had that, and then I had Apple IIs in college. That's how I got into the graphic design. That was my thing in high school before I got into computer science. But just having that and gaming consoles growing up got me interested in computers. So, I hear a lot of your guests, they had, someone bought them a computer and they were guided towards, and encouraged to get into computers. I didn't really have that, but it just these small exposures growing up really got me into it. And to the point where in 93, I technically bought my first computer for $2,500. It was a digital 486 at CompUSA. And it was a piece of junk looking back at it now. But, Windows 95, hooray, hip, hip, hooray. That was it, man.
Was it like a DX2 66 or a 90 or?
It was right before digital got merged with, it was
With compact?
It was before compact. Yeah. I think someone else picked them up and then they merged with compact. But yeah, it was this old tower. I had that all the way until I moved to California, and it was just a brick. I gave it away. But yeah.
I don't think they had a 90 megahertz 486. I think the 90 megahertz was the first Pentium.
You are correct.
Wow. I can't believe I remember that.
You are correct. So I will confirm your random fact.
It was good.
There was a 66 megahertz Pentium. There was a 75, and there was a 90. The 486, you had the SX25. You had a 33. There was a 40. There was an AMD. And then there was a 66. That might have been the highest that it went. There was a 75.
I had a DX2 66.
5.
That's right. Yeah, I know somebody who had a 75.
Yeah, I think that was it. Because that was when I was, like overclocking and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And I had a Cyrix, I had an AMD, some of those higher clock speed chips than what Intel was putting out at the moment.
Yeah, my freshman year of college, that was really just my my Command and Conquer Red Alert machine. It had a
That was
modem.
a good game.
Oh, it was a fantastic game. I still love it, and it's available in emulation on Mac. Hell, just so you know that you can still play it. If you search
cool.
for it.
No.
Yeah. But in college, it was more. We worked on Solaris 6 in C++ first year of college. So that was another thing. 1993, Western Michigan University had a really great computer lab. They had a really great CS department. So I got really lucky with a lot of good exposure growing up. So
Cool. I was not able to confirm any other owner for digital prior to Compaq. I've been
I think like
Wikipedia.
Burroughs. Could have been Burroughs or somebody like that. You know who would probably know that? Jeffrey would probably know that.
Jeffrey would definitely know that.
Yeah.
Let's get him up on Skype. You never know. Could happen.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and wrap it up, Eric. Thank you very much for.
Thank you for having me.
We kind of did a wide-ranging kind of picture of Windows, and then kind of cloud. What has happened to the cloud lately? So good stuff.
It happens.
Thanks, man.
It happens when you get me on the call. So
We
didn't even mention Splunk. Really, we didn't. We did, but we didn't.
I told you, it depends on the guest. I had no intention.
You know what? I do want to mention, you guys have an outstanding community manager.
Yes, we do. Rachel Perkins,
Bob.
she's a gem.
Yeah.
And she appeared on the Geek Whispers podcast. I don't know if anybody follows the Geek Whispers. That's Amy Lewis, John Troyer, and Matthew Brender. And hold on, I'm pulling up the podcast.
Yeah, I just got Rachel's mail on. You guys are doing your own MVP program there, so good stuff.
Yes, that's
I had the opportunity to help her kickstart the San Francisco user group until I was like way overstretched and said, "Hey, I got to stop." But good luck. If you need help, let me know.
All right, I found the link that I was looking for. There we go. Episode 83 of the Geek Whispers with Rachel Perkins.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, cool. So good talking to you, Eric. And,
All right, Hal. Hit me up next time you're in California.
I will be there next week, but it is so brief that I will not have a chance to diverge from my itinerary.
Okay.
But I'll be in town Wednesday. I don't know if are you going to be in the city by chance?
We'll see. I go down there so often that it's not a big deal. So if you're going to be down there, maybe I'll swing down. We can have dinner or something.
All right. I'll hook up with you.
All right, fellas. Well, it was good chatting with you.
All right, have a good night.
All right, take care.
Alrighty. Thanks, chat room, for coming and helping out. Dude, I got like a bunch of links in the show notes.
Oh yeah, I saw that you were dropping them right and left.
Yes, we went all over the place. Convert from string. I have not used it. It sounds really pretty cool.
Yeah, it it really helped me out.
Yeah. I don't know what the deal is with my my VM. I can't log into my VM. It's really kind of frustrating. Maybe it didn't get provisioned right.
Maybe
it took forever to do.
Yeah, it did seem like it took a while.
I'm just gonna trash it. That's what I'm gonna do. I will fix it that way. Delete the disks. Gone. Okay. I will make a new one. I love cloud services. Like just make a new one. No big deal. Okay. Server 2016 technical preview. Password.
They have a new streaming thing for YouTube. Normally, or the way it's worked in the past, you actually have to create an event and give it a start time and stuff. Mm-hmm. They have something now in beta called Stream Now, which may be skip a few of those steps. So I'm going to play with that. I just noticed it today, yesterday, maybe. But I want to stream some Techstravaganza sessions tomorrow on YouTube. So I'm bringing an extra laptop with a webcam and my H2 to try and do
awesome.
that.
Good idea. Did you ever show you have you ever seen the H4?
I've seen pictures of it. I've never seen one in person, I don't think. There's an
You wanna play with
H5
mine,
now.
or Don't
Yeah.
want to bother with it, or
Yeah, absolutely.
what it?
Cool.
It's got dudes on the bottom.
Can it work as a USB microphone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So it's in that respect, it has nothing less than the H2.
Right.
So you've got
It's
that's a
all
plus.
more.
You have the two.
All better.
What do you call those connectors on the bottom? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do. But it's
got it.
not
Word
coming
for
to
them.
me.
It's not BNC, is it?
No. TRS, I think.
Okay, that doesn't sound like it at all.
Tip ring sleeve. No, that's the
That's Radio
that's the
Shack.
1/4-inch cables.
In peace. Anyway, the big thick microphone cables. You can plug those in for external mics. So you've got so you can do 4-channel.
XLR.
Yes, that one. Yes, that one. Anyway, if you want to, if you want, then just like drop by on your way out the door. You can come grab it if you want to. I don't care.
Oh, you're not going to be there?
Up to you. No, I had to cancel at the last minute.
Oh, okay.
My boss was like, hey, the thing that you need to do that you are having trouble getting done on time, you should probably go do that instead of go play with your Windows buddies. That was something like how the conversation went. I mean, it's cool. I'm not like in trouble, but it was just like he pointed it out in such a logical way that I couldn't really disagree with him.
Like, oh, yeah, that's a fine point you make there.
Yes. Oh well. All right, I need to play more with Windows 10. Maybe that's what I will do a little bit tonight before I go back upstairs. That, and if I need to, I will get this stupid server up. It still says starting. The second one. That's ridiculous. I could probably spin up a 2012 server and have it going, in like a minute. I don't know why this one is being like this.
Yeah, it seems a little weird. Okay, well, I need to head upstairs. Have a good night.
Alrighty, man.
Take care.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
chat room.